Beneath the surface of the internet lies a world shrouded in secrecy, where anonymity reigns supreme and the darkest corners of human nature are laid bare. Among the most chilling discoveries to emerge from this hidden realm was a forum known as the Cannibal Café. What began as a fringe, almost laughable niche of the dark web spiraled into a horrifying phenomenon when it was revealed that participants weren't just sharing fantasies, they were seeking to act on them. The forum, a digital gathering space for self-proclaimed cannibals, exposed a reality so unsettling that it captured the world's attention when it was finally uncovered. The Cannibal Café was hidden within the dark web, accessible only through encrypted networks like Tor, which allowed users to remain anonymous. To the uninitiated, it might have seemed like a grotesque but harmless forum, just another dark corner of the internet where people shared bizarre ideas and shocking images. But for its most active members, it was much more. The forum was a hub for sharing recipes, discussing the ideal methods for preparation, and, most disturbingly, arranging real-life meetings where individuals would purportedly offer themselves as victims. Investigators stumbled upon the site while monitoring dark web activities linked to human trafficking and other violent crimes. What they found sent shockwaves through law enforcement. The forum was not just a playground for twisted fantasies, it was a marketplace of horror. Posts ranged from detailed accounts of culinary experiments to explicit invitations for volunteers who wanted to be eaten. Users hid behind screen names like Gourmet Predator and Tender Meal, openly discussing topics that sounded too surreal to be true. And yet, the evidence suggested that some participants were dead serious. The Cannibal Café came to public attention when an undercover investigator infiltrated the forum and uncovered chilling plans for an actual meeting between a self-proclaimed cannibal and a willing victim. The would-be predator, who went by the username Butcher72, had posted a detailed advertisement seeking someone who was willing to be slaughtered and consumed. To everyone's horror, the post wasn't ignored, it received multiple replies. The conversations that followed revealed meticulous planning, from consent agreements to discussions about how the event would unfold. The investigators tracking this interaction had no choice but to act quickly. They posed as potential participants, slowly gaining the trust of the forum's members while piecing together details about their real identities. It was a race against time. If the meeting took place, the consequences could be unimaginable. What made the investigation even more chilling was the discovery that this wasn't an isolated incident. The Cannibal Café had been active for years, with hundreds of members sharing and discussing the most disturbing content imaginable. As the investigation deepened, authorities found themselves in uncharted territory. The legal implications were murky. How do you prosecute someone for an act that hasn't yet occurred but is being planned with full consent? What do you do when the victim is as eager as the predator? These questions weighed heavily on the team as they worked to trace the forum's origin and its most active users. The deeper they delved, the darker the revelations became. Law enforcement agencies around the world collaborated to shut down the forum and identify its users. But anonymity, the very foundation of the dark web, made the task nearly impossible. The Cannibal Café operated like a hydra. Each time investigators thought they had cornered its leaders, new accounts and hidden servers would appear. What made it even more terrifying was the realization that many of its members were ordinary people. Teachers, engineers, and office workers who led seemingly normal lives by day but descended into this abyss of depravity by night. The story of the Cannibal Café was about to reach its horrifying climax. One meeting, planned in excruciating detail, was closer to becoming a reality than anyone had imagined. The question wasn't just whether law enforcement could stop it in time, it was whether humanity could comprehend the horrors lurking beneath the surface of the web. The next part will unravel the shocking twists in the investigation, the chilling confrontations, and the fallout from exposing the Cannibal Café to the world. As investigators delved deeper into the dark web forum known as the Cannibal Café, the lines between fantasy and horrifying reality began to blur. The forum's members weren't merely sharing grotesque ideas, they were actively arranging real-life meetings. One such meeting, planned by the user Butcher72, became the focus of a high-stakes investigation. The predator's chilling ad, seeking a willing victim to be slaughtered and consumed, was no longer a theoretical nightmare. It was a ticking time bomb. Undercover agents infiltrated the forum, posing as like-minded participants to gain the trust of its members. They found themselves immersed in a disturbing community that operated with unsettling efficiency. Members shared tips for avoiding law enforcement, encrypted communication methods, and even guidelines for how to properly prepare a human body. These weren't just idle discussions, they were instructions. But the most alarming discovery was that there were volunteers. People who, for reasons incomprehensible to most, had responded to Butcher72's ad, offering themselves as victims. The operation to identify and apprehend the predator was fraught with challenges. The dark web's anonymity meant that traditional investigative techniques were nearly useless. Every IP address was masked, every account linked to disposable email addresses and cryptocurrency wallets. But the more Butcher72 communicated with his supposed victims and undercover agents, the more breadcrumbs he left behind. Investigators painstakingly pieced together these clues, analyzing language patterns, timestamps, and geographic hints embedded in the conversations. What they uncovered was chilling. Butcher72 was not some faceless monster hiding in the shadows. He was an ordinary man with a family, a job, and a home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. He lived a double life, presenting himself as a devoted father and husband by day while indulging his darkest fantasies at night. The contrast was jarring, a reminder of how easily the facade of normalcy can conceal unimaginable horrors. As the planned meeting drew closer, the tension among the investigative team was palpable. The predator had selected a victim, and the two were finalizing the details of their encounter. The victim, astonishingly, seemed to be participating willingly, describing how they wanted the event to unfold. Investigators wrestled with the ethical and legal complexities of the case. How do you stop a crime that both parties are consenting to? Is it even a crime if no act has yet been committed? These questions loomed as law enforcement prepared for the takedown. The operation was set to intercept the meeting before it could take place. Surveillance teams were dispatched to monitor Butcher72's home and the chosen location, a secluded cabin he had rented under a false name. The cabin, located deep in the woods, was stocked with tools and equipment that matched the conversations on the forum. It was a grim confirmation that the predator had every intention of carrying out his plan. On the day of the meeting, agents moved in. The cabin was surrounded, and Butcher72 was apprehended as he arrived at the location. Inside his car, investigators found a chilling array of items: knives, plastic sheeting, and a printed copy of the agreement he had drafted with the victim. The victim, who had been traveling from another state, was intercepted at a nearby bus station. Despite their apparent willingness, they were visibly shaken when questioned by authorities, revealing a complex web of psychological factors that had led them to this point. The arrest of Butcher72 was the beginning of a domino effect. His capture provided critical information about other members of the Cannibal Café, leading to additional arrests and the eventual shutdown of the forum. The discovery of the forum servers revealed hundreds of thousands of messages, exposing a global network of individuals engaged in similar activities. For law enforcement, it was both a victory and a grim reminder of the dark web's capacity to harbor the worst aspects of humanity. The story of the Cannibal Café shocked the public when it was revealed, sparking debates about the nature of consent, the limits of freedom, and the dark web's role in enabling such communities. But the true horror was yet to come. In the final part, we'll explore the aftermath of the investigation, the psychological profiles of the forum's members, and the chilling realization that this was only the tip of the iceberg. The arrest of Butcher72 and the takedown of the Cannibal Café marked a significant victory for law enforcement, but it left behind a trail of questions that no one could easily answer. What drove seemingly ordinary people to participate in such a grotesque community? How could consent be reconciled with such horrifying acts? And most chilling of all, how much more was lurking in the shadows of the dark web, still undiscovered? The forensic analysis of the Cannibal Café servers unearthed a staggering amount of information. Messages, images, and encrypted agreements revealed that the forum wasn't just a gathering spot for outlandish fantasies. It was a meticulously organized network with global reach. Users from dozens of countries had engaged in discussions, shared graphic content, and, in some cases, planned real-world encounters. Among the files, investigators found evidence of meetings that had already taken place, suggesting that some of the forum's darkest fantasies had been brought to life. One of the most haunting discoveries came from the chat logs. While many messages were steeped in disturbing humor or macabre curiosity, a subset of users demonstrated genuine intent. These individuals described their actions with chilling precision, leaving investigators and psychologists grappling with the motivations behind such behavior. Was it a form of extreme psychological disorder, a desire for control, or something even more primal? The answers varied, but the common thread was a deep disconnect from societal norms and an unsettling capacity for rationalizing the unthinkable. The psychological profiles of key participants painted a complex picture. Butcher 72, whose real name was withheld in initial reports to protect his family, was revealed to be a middle-aged professional with no prior criminal record. By all outward appearances, he was a model citizen. Friends and colleagues described him as quiet, polite, and entirely unremarkable. Yet his digital footprint told a different story, a man consumed by a dark obsession, meticulously planning his actions over years. The victim who had agreed to the meeting presented an equally perplexing case. They expressed a willingness to participate, describing their motivations as a mix of fascination and a deep-seated desire for escape. Psychologists who interviewed the victim uncovered a history of trauma and mental health struggles, raising questions about the ethical implications of consent in such circumstances. The victim's cooperation with law enforcement led to further arrests, but their story became a focal point in debates about vulnerability and exploitation in the digital age. The exposure of the Cannibal Café sent shockwaves through the public when the story broke. Media coverage was relentless, with headlines focusing on the grotesque nature of the forum and the depravity of its members. For many, the existence of such a community was almost impossible to comprehend. But for experts familiar with the dark web, it was a stark reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows of anonymity. The fallout from the investigation was far-reaching. Law enforcement agencies across the globe intensified their focus on dark web activity, targeting forums, marketplaces, and encrypted chat groups. The takedown of the Cannibal Café led to the dismantling of similar communities, but it also highlighted the difficulty of combating such networks. The anonymity provided by platforms like Tor made tracking and identifying users a monumental challenge, and for every forum shut down, another seemed to rise in its place. The Cannibal Café also sparked broader conversations about the role of technology in enabling such behavior. Critics argued that the very tools designed to protect privacy and freedom of speech had been co-opted to shield the darkest corners of humanity. Proponents of online privacy countered that the actions of a few should not dictate the rights of many, warning against overreach in government surveillance and censorship. For those who had worked tirelessly to bring the Cannibal Café to light, the victory was bittersweet. While they had succeeded in shutting down one of the dark web's most notorious forums, they knew it was only a matter of time before others took its place. The dark web, like the human psyche, was vast and uncharted, a place where the boundaries of morality, law, and humanity blurred into darkness. As the dust settled, one truth remained: the Cannibal Café was a chilling reminder of what anonymity and unchecked freedom could unleash. It was a story that left an indelible mark on everyone who encountered it, from the investigators who uncovered its horrors to the public who struggled to comprehend its existence. If this story has gripped you, don't let it end here. Subscribe to our channel to uncover more unsettling tales from the dark web. Real stories that explore the hidden depths of the internet and the human psyche. From criminal networks to digital mysteries, there's always more to uncover. What's the next dark secret you'll discover? Hit that subscribe button, and let's journey into the shadows together.